Yes, on a rational level, I would say, but not emotionally. Um, I don't feel European, and I must underline feel, because I think the idea of Europe is a very fragile one, as it happens with every beautiful idea, and is under a constant attack from forces, political forces from the far right or far left, uh, and we were able to create, or European Union was able to create the mechanisms that allow us to benefit as peoples and nations from this beautiful idea. But at the same time, I think we have overlooked the need to create a true European identity. Uh, that being said, I must say that creating this true identity is not an easy task. Uh, and so far in Europe, in most European countries, we see that Europe, where either is a mother where everyone asks for help when they are in need, or a scapegoat whenever things don't go as intended. So I'd say it's not an easy task to create that fundamental European identity. I'm in a country that is a member of the European Union, and well, we are in Europe, and we have benefited. Portugal as a country as a whole, we as a people have benefited from the fact that we are in the European Union. So I would say that yes, I, I identify myself on that rational level, but I don't feel, because in order for you to have that sense of belonging to a political community, uh, you need more that kind of uh, sense of rational belonging. You need a shared sense of destiny, that things that happen to somebody that lives in Poland or France or Spain um, uh, will affect you. Is the same thing, the same thing that you are experiencing. So I'd say that we as a people, we can identify as Europeans. We say, well, we are a member of European Union. I am an European. I can travel to other countries, but that is not enough for somebody to have that sense of belonging to a community. I think you need that shared sense of destiny, as I said. You also need a memory. You need myths. You need a common past. You need a common language, and that takes time to build. You don't build an identity without bricks, and I think we lack those bricks. That moment was when Portugal joined the European Union, the then called European Economic Community. I think it was kind of a passport into the future to a poor and peripheral country that had turned its back on Europe, and Europe had turned its back on Portugal also. But I think that there were other symbolic moments, such as the end of borders, or the the single currency, the euro. I think those were decisive moments in the building of the political union. Although, and I should also stress this, although that doesn't mean that um, you can build an identity with only that. It's not enough to build an identity to have a single currency, or to end to allow people to travel. It's much more than that. But for me, and as a child and a young man, those moments were very important, um, to give me that sense I was talking about of belonging to this bigger community of countries. The response to the sovereign debt crisis was the worst moment, because it was a kind of a crisis that exposed the wounds of building this European identity, and exposed also the lack of that idea of shared destiny. The idea that what happens to one happens to everybody, to every country in this case. Uh, we realized that we still have an hierarchy in European Union, and that southern countries were almost seen as pariah states in the context of the European Union, and that was completely damaging for the European project, because it's very, as I said, it's a very difficult task to build this identity. It's a long process, and when you have countries um, doing the kind of things that happened during the crisis, doesn't help people to identify with the European project. Also like to say that you saw the same flaws in the response to the refugee crisis. Uh, there wasn't this idea that things that are happening in one country are happening to Europe. They were seen as local problems, and they're not. As a symbol, I would say that this the way that the European Union dealt with the vaccination all across Europe was the right way to do it. Uh, if we had seen the same kind of commitment and action on the sovereign debt crisis, I think that we European Union would be in a much better place right now regarding the way that the citizens, the European citizens, look at it. So I'd say that this kind of cohesion that we saw now with the vaccination program, I think that's what we people that believe in the European project expect from the European Union. I would have to answer as a writer. I think that the existence of uh, both European and national programs supporting translation of books and the traveling of writers to other countries, to me gave me the opportunity to visit other European countries, and to realize all the challenges and obstacles that lay ahead the idea of of Europe. We have a long way to go before this idea turns into a reality. Um, there's a huge lack of knowledge between countries. Uh, People in Poland don't know Portuguese history, then They don't know anything about our recent past, and it works both ways. We don't know anything about them. So how can you build this identity if you don't know anything about your neighbors, about the people you are with in this project? So this possibility to go to other countries to visit and to see to have my work translated there, um, gave me the chance to understand how difficult the task is to overcome the differences between countries. And one way of trying to bridge that gap would be through translation and these these cultural changes between countries. I would like that the European citizens uh, could get to know more closely what's going on other countries. I think that is essential for the European community and the European Union and the European project. Unfortunately, I am a pessimist, and I think that most Europeans will look to Europe for their particular interests, either seeing Europe, as a kind of a cash cow or a scapegoat. So I'm not very optimistic about the future, but if we take small steps, a step at a time, I think that maybe our grandchildren can have that sense of European identity that we are lacking now. But it will take time, and I think that we should be humble and not setting um, goals, too ambitious goals. I think that we should set modest and humble goals and take each step at time, without any hurries, knowing that there are huge differences between countries, and it's not that easy to build a collective project when you have such big differences, cultural differences, economic difference, political differences. A politician, unlike a writer, cannot afford to be pessimistic. So his narratives tend to be optimistic, which is the same as saying misleading. You were talking about myths, and I think that a writer has the duty of denouncing those myths and to question the official truths that politicians use. But I, at the same time, I think that there are uh, positive features in collective narratives, but it's not the job of a writer to create them, to write them, but to question them. I think that fiction and lies are not the same thing. You know, you can use fiction to tell the truth.
Mhm.
Uh, and when we talk about history and identity, we are talking about fiction, and political communities are also kinds of fictions, uh, but fictions that you want people to engage with and to relate to. Um, in a way, you want people to believe so much in that fictions that they're willing to give their lives if they have to. And how do you do that? How do you make up a fiction that is so powerful that you have people following it? That's the question. That's a question for politicians. Um, but we have to acknowledge that those kind of fictions, political fictions, or collective narratives, are also rooted in true feelings of belonging, um, whether they have to do with language, with territory, with memory, with with religion. Uh, you can't build that fiction out of nothing. You have to have, as I said before, you have to have those real bricks in order to be able to build these identities. And of course, a political narrative, national narrative needs that kind of facts, but also that ability to transform those facts into myths. Uh, and they need that people are willing to believe that. And that's what happens also with the European Union. Uh, but people are not willing to believe that fiction. That's why you hear so often they're uh, talking about Brussels or things that are decided in an upper level, that people are not really engaged with the political process. Um, it does. I think that it has nothing to do with reality. It's only the willingness or lack of willingness to believe in that fiction, because you lack those bricks: language, um, well, religion, that is not that much important right now, um, for in a mostly secular Europe, um, but also history, you know. And I think that you always end up merging facts with I would say non-facts to get to that fiction that you give people. I agree in a way. I agree that you have a participation deficit, but it's not that doesn't happen only with Europe, but with the political process in overall. But I'm very skeptical about the possibility of creating an instant identity with which people identify all across Europe. It doesn't work that way. Uh, you are talking about structural processes, and on top of that, those processes don't reach everybody on the same way. Uh, it is very different if you are talking about people that live in cities, urban people that are informed, that have higher education, who have already had the opportunity to live or to study or to work abroad, and a population that has had none of these opportunities, um, and lives without a real sense of the benefits that Europe has brought them. Mm, if you are stuck in a place, you for you, Europe is too abstract. You don't know what that means. A Portuguese person knows what being Portuguese means. but some of them don't understand what being a European means. You know, and I don't think that you can. Uh, mm, that the problem is the participation deficit, because as I said before, you also have that problem in countries. People aren't really engaged with the political with political participation. In unions as you used to have, or even in political parties. So that's not the main problem. Um, communities, political communities, are essentially products of imagination that are shaped by politics. Um, and I would say that there is no effort of imagination of individuals or any political, molding that would not be totalitarian, that can impose this sense of identity, of belonging. uh, you are asking too much from people, too much of their imagination to identify with the European project. And it takes time. As I said, we people that believe in the European Union and in the benefits and the advantages of European Union, we should be humble in our goals. Europe has a long history, uh, full of conflicts, of wars, uh, and we are living now in an unprecedented time of peace. And our main goal should be to keep that, instead of setting uh, kind of pipe dream goals. And you also need to take time, realize that it takes time to build this kind of uh, uh, relationship with such a broad and wide political community as the European Union. Well, I think that we have two main narratives regarding Europe and the European Union. One is that European Union and Europe is a threat to nations and to national communities and identities. And well, I've heard that kind of narrative, well, since I was a young man. So it is nothing new. It's a kind of undercurrent on European politics to hear that Europe is threatening us. We shouldn't embrace Europe because the country will be destroyed. Our identity will be lost, and it's a very strong and very appealing narrative uh, that it easily resonates with people because it appeals to their sense of belonging to a specific community in history, space, and time. The other narrative, which I think is dominant, um, is that the solution to every problem is in Europe, uh, and sometimes you hear, I hear this kind uh, of mythification of the European Union and the Europe in awe, and I almost can't believe that, because uh, you don't have a kind of a trick, a miracle to solve all the problems. It's a kind of work in progress, and sometimes uh, you are stuck and you can't see a way out of it, and you have to negotiate and you have to deal with other countries. It, it's not easy, and it shouldn't be easy. Sometimes I think there is this kind of narrative that tells uh, the other countries, and I think it's a bit um, I'm lacking the word for it, but
Condescending.
yeah, condescending. That you are looking to other countries to tell them, well, this is the way to behave, and this is the way to look at Europe. You have seen that kind of behavior before, whenever you had referendums across Europe on important subjects. And I don't think that you you will be able to bring people to this project if you are telling them that this is the only way. You don't have an alternative. So I do think that those two narratives aren't the best. I think we should find a more balanced narrative that takes into account the local interests, but also um, the collective interests of European Union. Well, as a union, a real union. It's not one country, one political entity. It's an union of countries, of nations, and we have we. I think I'm referring to politicians. They have to find this other narrative, more balanced, and in a way more humble, so the European project can thrive. I think that we are living in a political and historical environment that in some ways has been shaped by new technologies, um, either in positive and negative ways. But that is a fact. Um, we are living in an age that is being shaped by those technologies, but we shouldn't forget that they are tools. They don't uh, determine our politics. They don't tell you that you should live in this or that kind of regime. But we are also learning along the way how to deal with these new technologies. And of course, we don't know what the outcome will be. Um, so uh, we have to be careful. We have to um, try to see the threats, the dangers that this kind of technologies pose to democracies. But because I do believe that democracies should be preserved. But at the same time, you can't forget how useful these new technologies can be to reach um, uh, people that were out of the political process. If you think that in 2008 Barack Obama was elected and the social media had such an important role on his election, you would say, well, it was for the good of the community. Um, okay, you might think that, but at the same time, when you think about Trump's election 80 years later, you would think otherwise, and you start to say that uh, there were other countries involved in the elections, that the social media and the fake news helped elect Donald Trump. Uh, so as it happened before with the print revolution, or mass media revolution, with the television, we know that it will affect, and it will keep on affecting our political environment. Um, but we should be uh, doing what we should be doing is to keep the social media from destroying it, our fragile political environment. Uh, and of course, you asked me about the role writers have. I think it's important. Um, well, a writer is above all is a citizen. Before being a writer, is a citizen. Of course, as I said, when you uh, have this kind of global audience, you can be heard by people that usually don't pay that much attention to politics and to these issues. I don't know if writers have that kind of global audience. Some of them have, um, but well, if they don't set the example, who will? Even if they don't have that global audience, they should be on the front line, defending the free speech, and well, in a way, showing the way. Of course, chiefs and their jobs also change with the social media, um, because what you saw with, for instance, Donald Trump, is that you don't really need a speechwriter. you know you just need to tweet something, and I think, well, I don't know, but I assume that you don't need a speechwriter to tweet something. Maybe you do, I don't know. uh, but it changes, it changes the way. Of course, speech writers and people um, that advise uh, politicians will keep being important in this environment. um, but I would say their profile will necessarily will change in the future. You will need a different set of skills in this environment of dominated by social media. The rules of communication are different. The way you reach people is different. So I would say communication is always important, but it will work in different ways. And I think that advisors and speech writers will have to adapt to those changes, and they already are. It's not the same thing. To uh, be speaking, I don't know, for 30, 40 minutes before an audience, or be tweeting, or just to, I don't know, post a video on Instagram or Facebook. um, and what I think it's dangerous and it's a kind of threat. It's a kind of a illusion of participation that the, um, the social media gives people. Uh, we were talking about the participation deficit that we have in Europe, and social media gives you this wrong idea. I think wrong idea that you have a voice and you are being heard by everybody, and what you have to say is as much important as anybody else's. And I think that's a dangerous, uh, a very dangerous illusion. Representative democracy, for me, is still the best way to ensure that you have a real democracy working. And this kind of illusion that kind of a more direct democracy that is enhanced by social media, I think it's very dangerous. It's one of the issues that worry me the most, um, more than, well, the role of speech writers.